For years, psychologists assumed a harsh inner critic was the engine behind discipline. The research keeps showing the opposite. The people who are kinder to themselves don't fall behind, they recover faster, learn more from mistakes, and stay in the game longer. Here's the question worth sitting with for a minute. Is being hard on yourself actually working? Not whether it feels productive, not whether it sounds responsible, whether over the long run, it's making you the person you want to be. Because most of us have an unspoken theory that goes something like this. If I'm tough on myself, I'll stay sharp. If I let up, I'll get lazy. That theory kind of feels true, but the research suggests it usually isn't. In this video, I want to walk you through what self-compassion actually is, what self-criticism actually does, and the findings that surprised me most when I started reading the science. Not as a pep talk, as a recalibration. So what self-compassion actually is? Let's start by clearing the biggest misconception out of the way. Self-compassion is not going easy on yourself. It's not telling yourself that you're amazing when you're not. It's not self-pity, and it's not lowering the bar. The researcher who put self-compassion on the psychological map, Kristin Neff, defines it through three pieces. 1, self-kindness instead of self-judgment, treating yourself with the same basic warmth that you'd offer to a friend who is struggling. 2, common humanity instead of isolation, remembering that messing up, falling short, and feeling lost are part of the universal human experience, not personal evidence that you're uniquely broken. And 3, mindfulness instead of over-identification, seeing what you feel clearly without drowning it in or pretending that it isn't there. That's it. Notice what's not in the definition. There's no lower your standards. There's no pretend you didn't mess up. There's no let yourself off the hook. Self-compassion is a way of facing what happened, not a way of avoiding it. What self-criticism actually does. So now let's flip it. When you attack yourself after a mistake, when you call yourself an idiot, a fraud, lazy, weak, your nervous system doesn't sort that into constructive feedback. It registers a threat. Paul Gilbert, the psychologist behind compassion-focused therapy, has spent decades describing this. Harsh self-criticism activates the same threat circuitry that fires when something dangerous is in front of you. Cortisol goes up. You move into a kind of internal fight or flight, except the thing is, you're fighting yourself. So what does that do to motivation? Well, short term, it can produce a burst of effort, the way that fear does. Long term, the research links chronic self-criticism with higher rates of anxiety and depression, more avoidance, more procrastination, and less follow-through after setbacks. Researcher Fuchsia Sira has shown that people who are more self-critical tend to procrastinate more, not less, because the task itself becomes loaded with the threat of more self-attack. That's the trap. The voice that's supposed to make you act actually makes the task feel more dangerous to approach. So here's the part that genuinely changed how I think about this. Most people assume that self-compassion and accountability are opposites. Like there's a dial, and the more compassionate you are, the less honest you can be about making mistakes. The research suggests that dial doesn't exist. In a now classic study, Mark Leary and his colleagues had people recall a recent failure or embarrassment. The participants higher in self-compassion didn't downplay what happened. They didn't make excuses. They were more willing to take responsibility, not less. And in a series of experiments by Juliana Brains and Serena Chen, people who were prompted to respond to a personal failure with self-compassion reported more motivation to change, work harder, and avoid repeating the mistake compared to the people who were prompted towards self-esteem boosts or distraction. Read that again. Self-compassion increased the motivation to improve. Self-criticism, in study after study, tends to do the opposite. That's the finding that surprised me. Not that self-compassion feels nicer, that it actually works better by the metrics most of us care about. So if the research is this clear, why does self-compassion still feel suspicious? A lot of us carry a quiet fear that if we stop the inner attack, we'll stop trying. Gilbert calls this fear of self-compassion. And it's real and well documented. The inner critic feels like the lifeguard. Letting go of it feels like drowning. But notice what that fear assumes. It assumes the only thing standing between you and a wasted life is contempt for yourself. That's not a description of a high performer. That's a description of someone running from a threat. People with high standards don't actually need the threat. They need clarity, energy, and the willingness to keep showing up after a setback. That's exactly what self-compassion supports. Self-compassion is not a script, but it does have a recognizable tone. After a hard day, self-criticism sounds like, "What is wrong with me? I should have handled that better. I always do this." Self-compassion sounds like, "That was hard. I didn't do it the way I wanted." A lot of people would have struggled with that. What do I actually want to do differently next time? Same accountability, different nervous system, different next move. If you want one thing to take into your week, try this. The next time that you catch yourself in a self-attack, run 3 short steps. Number 1, name what happened without labeling yourself. Not "I'm a mess," just "I missed that deadline." 2, remind yourself this is a human experience. Not "I'm uniquely failing," just people miss deadlines and it's painful when they do. And 3, ask what a wise, kind friend who actually wanted you to succeed would say. Then say that to yourself. That's it. You're not lowering the standard. You're changing the voice that's evaluating you so the evaluation can actually land. So here's what I want you to take from this. Being kinder to yourself is not the opposite of being serious about your life. In the research, it's one of the more reliable ways to be serious about your life. Self-criticism is a strategy. Self-compassion is a strategy. One of them tends to produce stress avoidance and burnout. The other tends to produce resilience, accountability, and follow-through. Your inner voice is not a fixed feature of who you are. It's a habit. And habits respond to attention.